There's a version of loneliness that nobody warns you about when you start a business. It's not the kind where you're sitting in an empty room with nobody around you. It's not the kind that looks like loneliness from the outside. It's the kind where you're surrounded, your team is in the building, your partner's at home, your phone doesn't stop, you're in back-to-back meetings, back-to-back conversations, and people need things from you constantly. And yet, you get to the end of the day and there is something you haven't been able to share with anyone. Not because you don't trust them, not because they don't care, but because every conversation you have is a conversation where you have to be something for someone else first. That's the loneliness founders carry. And if you're watching this, you already know exactly what I'm talking about because you've felt it this week. Most people assume founder loneliness comes from not having enough people around them. Build a better network, find a peer group, get a mentor. That's the standard advice, and it misses the point entirely because you've got people. You've probably always had people. The problem isn't the number of people. The problem is that what you can and can't say to any of them. Your team needs you to be certain, not because they're fragile, but because uncertainty at the top destabilizes everything below it. So when you're not sure, you don't show it. You translate the doubt into direction and you keep moving. Your partner needs you to be okay. They're carrying their own version of this alongside you. The financial pressure, the uncertainty, the life you both built around something that hasn't paid off yet the way you thought it would. So you protect them from the worst of it. You soften the edges. Your friends are proud of you. They backed you early. They tell people what you're building. And you don't want to be the one who sits across from them and admits that it's harder than it looks and you don't have it all together as they think. Investors, advisors, peers, every one of those conversations has a stake in it. There's always something being assessed, even when you're performing for people who genuinely want you to succeed. And so you edit every single time with every single person. You take what's actually happening, the real version, the unfiltered version, the version you think about at 3 a.m, and you compress it into something the person in front of you can handle. And the gap between what you really experience and what you're willing to say out loud, that's the gap that loneliness sits in. It's not about being alone. It's about being unable to fully know. Here's what most people miss about this, that loneliness isn't a personal failing. It's not evidence that something has gone wrong with you, or that you've built the wrong life, or that you're not cut out for this. It's a signal about where you are in the business, because that specific kind of isolation, kind where you can't fully be honest with anyone in your immediate world, or arise when the stakes are real, when the decision belongs entirely to you, when the downside has your name on it, when what happens next depends almost entirely on your judgment, and there's nobody who you can genuinely share that weight with. Not really, not fully. That's not weakness, that's the position. The loneliness is the cost of accountability that doesn't get distributed. And here's the part that catches most founders off guard. It doesn't get lighter as the business gets stronger. It deepens, because growth means more at stake, more peoples whose livelihoods depend on the calls you make, a wider and wider gap between what you actually know about the stakes of the business and what is safe or useful or fair to say to the people around you. Most founders I work with expect the loneliness to ease as things stabilize, as revenue grows, as the team gets stronger. Well, it doesn't. What changes is your capacity to carry it. If you build that capacity deliberately, if you don't, the weight just accumulates. And the founder who struggles aren't the ones who feel this. Feeling it means you're paying attention. The ones who struggle the most are the ones who have never found a way to process it. So it just sits there underneath every decision they make. What happens when you don't deal with it? When there's nowhere honest to put it? Most founders do one of two things, and you'll know which one you do. The first is you go further inside yourself. You stop offering anything real in conversations, not because you've decided to, but because the habit of editing becomes so automatic you can't find the unedited version anymore. You present in the room, but you're not actually there. The people closest to you feel it. They just don't know what to call it, and neither do you after a while. The second is you get louder, more certain. You fill the space that the unexpressed doubt would have occupied with conviction, because conviction is safe to show up and doubt isn't. You stop questioning yourself, not because you've resolved anything, but because you've stopped having anywhere to do the questioning. and the decisions start to harden in ways that aren't about clarity. They're about not being able to afford to be seen as unsure. Neither of those is a character flaw. Both of them are what happens when the weight has nowhere to go. You've probably watched yourself do one of them this week and not had a name for it until just now. You don't need more people. You need the right space. There's a meaningful difference between those two things. More people gives you more conversations where you have to manage how you come across. More relationships where the dynamic has a stake in it. More audience to perform for. The right space is something different. It's one conversation with someone who has no stake in the outcome, no investment in the particular version of you, no need for you to be okay, where you don't have to edit, where you can say what is actually going on, the real financial pressure, the decision from the last quarter that you're still not sure about, the thing you keep rescheduling in your own head because you haven't been able to look at it directly yet, and have someone hold that clearly and reflect it back at you. Not fix it, not to reframe it into something more comfortable, but to help you hear yourself say the real thing out loud. Because something shifts when that happens. Not the circumstance, not the business overnight, the relationship you have with what you're carrying. When you finally say the real thing without filtering it for someone else's comfort, without softening it, doesn't alarm anyone. You start to move differently. You make decisions from a clearer place. You lead with more steadiness, not because the pressure has gone, but because you're no longer spending energy managing gaps between what's real and what you're willing to say. The loneliness doesn't disappear, it becomes workable, and that changes everything about how you operate. I know that, but you've been translating yourself for so long, for your team, for your partner, for anyone who needs a version of you they can handle. That's the real question about whether you still know what the unedited version of you sounds like. That's what loneliness does over time. It doesn't just isolate you from other people, it starts to isolate you from yourself. The founders who carry this well aren't the ones who found a way to stop feeling it. They're the ones who found somewhere they didn't have to translate. If this is the first time something has named what you've been carrying, that's where to start. This channel is built to keep you going from here, so subscribe.